All right, Pokemon fans. Now, believe it or not, I actually went back and watched some of the season one episodes of Pokemon where Ash was training, if you want to say the word training, for the Indigo Plateau in his very first Pokemon League. Now, honestly, that league was a mixed bag of feelings for me because I'm 26 now and I started watching Pokemon back when it first came on in the United States, and it was something that we were working towards, seeing Ash compete in his first Pokemon League competition, and I hated the way he lost to Richie. And here's my take on it. Number one, obviously the writers wrote it so Ash wouldn't win. Now, I said this in a rant video I did about a year or so ago, pretty much around the time that Ash lost to Alon in the Kalos League. And really, in most cases, it isn't about Ash losing a battle as opposed to how that battle is actually written. Now, when it came down to the Richie and Ash fight, I'm not going to lie, I actually kind of enjoyed it, even though that battle made absolutely no sense. Wait, why doesn't it make sense? If you go back and rewatch the battle between Ash and Richie, when it's like Squirtle versus Butterfree, Pikachu taking out Butterfree, Zippo the Charmander taking out Pikachu, and then Ash calling out his Charizard, which literally stomps on the ground. No, actually, I'm sorry. It used its own flamethrower to chase Charmander around, and then it got recalled. And finally, it refused to battle Richie's Pikachu Sparky. If you go back and look at that battle, Richie and Ash, neither one of them actually commanded their Pokemon to actually attack. They literally just threw their Pokemon on the field and they attacked the way they wanted to. Like, it made no sense. I think the only time an attack was called out was when Richie told his Butterfree to use Sleep Powder, which back in Gen 1, Gen 1 of the series, if your Pokemon fell asleep in battle, then it was called unable to battle. Heck, I believe if you recalled your Pokemon back to its Pokeball, it was deemed unable to battle or eliminated from the round. Like when Charizard was using Flamethrower and Richie's Charmander was running around the field to dodge, he recalled it, and then it was pretty much its light dimmed out on the scoreboard. So pretty much Richie was down to his last Pokemon. Made no sense whatsoever. But when I go back and think about that battle, obviously I feel like number one, Ash lost that battle because most of the Pokemon that he was going to use in the fight were actually weakened because Team Rocket literally kidnapped Ash and he had to battle them like 2 or 3 times before he actually got to the battlefield. I remember his Pidgeotto was exhausted because it flew the hot air balloon all the way there. Pikachu was exhausted from zapping, using its electricity so much. Squirtle, it filled up the back of a big truck with water guns, so take that for what you will. But pretty much we can just assume that because Team Rocket exhausted most of Ash's team, the Pokemon that he would have used instead of Charizard were to the point of exhaustion. Now, another reason you look at this battle is that Charizard didn't listen to Ash, which is obviously something that was a running, I wouldn't call it so much a running gag as showing that Ash isn't the experienced trainer that he portrays himself to be. But I feel like aside from Team Rocket, I feel like Team Rocket was the main reason that Ash lost that battle to Richie. But I also feel like Ash himself is at fault, and I believe that Professor Oak called Ash out for that after he lost, because remember, after losing to Richie, Ash was like moping around and acting like a crybaby, and he and Misty got into an argument. And Professor Oak pretty much shut it down by saying, you know what? Well, maybe if you trained your Charizard properly and it would have obeyed you in battle, then you might have had a chance of winning against Richie. And Ash pretty much shut up after that because he was absolutely right. I mean, if you go back and look at all the episodes, a majority of the episodes between where Ash got the Earth Badge from beating Team Rocket at Viridian Gym, if you look at the time frame from what was actually, I think the episode where Professor Oak told Ash about the Pokemon League was Showdown at the Poke Corral. If you look at all the episodes between that and when he makes his way to the Indigo Plateau, where the dude with the Marowak tries to battle him, and if he beats him he gets his Pokemon League badges, whatever the episode title was, Bad to the Bone, that's what it was. Most of the episodes between Showdown at the Poke Corral and Bad to the Bone were filler episodes. which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in not even a handful of those episodes was Ash actually training. I think in maybe one or two sequences of in those entire episodes, Ash was not training. I think one scene where he was training was Pikachu versus Brock's Vulpix, and that was the Legend of the City of Pokeopolis, the one with the giant Jigglypuff, Gengar, and Alakazam. And I remember one of my favorite episodes, actually, the Evolution Solution. That was the one where we had Jesse catch a Shellder, and then it clamped onto Professor. There was a professor, I forgot his name, but he had a Slowpoke, and that's where we got Slowbro. In that episode, it was like Misty Brock went with Ash's mom and a bunch of people from Pallet Town to the beach. And they were like, okay, have fun training, Ash. We're going to the beach. And then it turns out Professor Oak actually needed Ash to go to the professor's lab to get information for him. But that just goes to show you there, Ash had plenty of time. I think he had like, 1 or 2 months to train for the Pokemon League. But every episode was him getting into a misadventure. I think there was one episode where he and his friend shot a Pokemon movie or something like that. It was just, even though those episodes are nostalgic, it made no excuse for Ash not to have control over his Pokemon by the time he got to the first Pokemon League. So, yes, I feel like Ash definitely played a factor in losing the battle to Richie. True, I feel like most of the blame is Team Rocket, but at the same time, Ash didn't properly train his Pokemon. Like, even though Krabby won or swept its very first battle against another trainer in the Pokemon League and evolved, I feel like it would have been a great time for Ash to, rotate his Pokemon around, to see him training with his team, and then see him rotate his team. Like, okay, I'm going to bring in Krabby, Muck, and one of my Tauros to actually get some training in so I can rotate my team during the Pokemon League. If I'm not mistaken, aside from the 30 Tauros to Krabby and Muck, those were his only Pokemon at Oak's lab at the time in that series. And then on his main team, he had Pikachu, Charizard, Pidgeotto, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur, I believe. So I'm not talking about evolution because, Pokemon mascots and all. Keep in mind that Richie made it to Ash was in the top 16. Richie made it to the top 8, I believe. And his main 3 Pokemon was a Pikachu, Butterfree, and Pikachu, Butterfree, and a Charmander. The Pokemon League really, I don't know. Some speculate, some fans actually speculate if Ash had mastery over his Charizard, he might have won the league because I don't know. We'll just have to. It was ridiculous. But with that being said, what do you think about Ash losing the Pokemon League in Generation 1, the Indigo Plateau? Based on how well this video does in the comments in the section below, I'll be more than happy to do follow-up videos on pretty much like a mini-series talking about Ash's losses in the various Pokemon Leagues. So who do you think is most at fault for Ash losing in his very first Pokemon League? And I'll talk to you in the next video.